everybody. I'm Jason. This is Steffen. This is Duke Boy. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. And today we're back out in the shop. We're going to be working on Steffen's tractor again. Today we're going to be locking the axle in this wheel horse 8-speed transmission. I don't know anything about it. Never done it before. It says Unidrive on the back. It's got 1-inch axles. We're going to tear it open. We're going to take you along with us. Let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is take off the wheels. We got the wheels off. We've got this thing safely on some jack stands. And the next thing we're going to do is take off the seat pan. Trailer hitch is next. Next thing we're going to do is take off the gas line so we can remove the gas tank. And I'm making it look a heck of a lot easier than it really was. Next, to remove the fuel tank, there's 2 bolts, these little bolts that go under here, 1 on each side. And there's 2 in the front that pinch it so the whole thing is secure. Those bolts are removed. Let's go ahead and take it out. The next thing we're going to do is take off the gas tank support, which seems to be held on with these 2 bolts that go into the transmission. Now, there's some sort of a tube with flared ends that just goes from here to there. I don't know what it's for. My guess is maybe the fuel line from factory was supposed to go through there, but I don't know. If anybody has any insight on what that tube is for, or if we need to keep it, let us know in the comments. There's that hollow tube. The next thing we're going to do is take off the belt guard and the footrests. And so we're going to put all the clips that hold these on right back on here with the nuts, so that when we put it back together, we don't get confused. We've got the transmission completely exposed. So what's left is the clutch spring. It looks like the brake rod connection and the 4 bolts that hold it in, plus the belt, which is really easy to get off. So we're gonna start by disconnecting this stuff here, take the belt off, and then there's some bolts in the front of this that hold it to the frame. Steffen's depressing the clutch. I'm just going to slip the belt right off the transmission pulley. The last thing holding this transmission in is the 4 bolts that bolt it to the frame. So I know this thing's probably going to be a little bit heavy. What we're going to do is I have these 3/8 16 threaded eye bolts, and they just happen to thread in right where the gas tank mount did. I've already got 1 in. I'm going to use 2 just because I can, and they're there. So once this thing's unbolted, we've got these shifter arms, and one of them goes up underneath where the brake shaft is that rotates when you push the brake pedal. So I know once this thing's loose, it's going to have to rock forward and go up, so we don't tweak that arm or get it caught in there. And I don't want to be fumbling with this thing on my beautiful shirt. So we're going to get this rigged up, and the next thing we're going to do is take the transmission out. Transmission's free of the tractor. It's hanging here by the engine hoist. And now Steffen is going to jack it up very slowly so I can rock it back. And we're probably going to get some fluid leakage out of it. Go a little more, hold on. We want to get that lever out. Now we're clear. Just like that, she gave birth to a transmission. So we got this thing out, sitting here on the welding table, and the first thing I'm going to do is put it back on the engine hoist, take it outside so we can pressure wash it. And another thing, I haven't done my homework really, so we're going to have to go ahead and review some YouTube videos of some other guys taking these things apart and how to do it right. Probably Red Zo2's video. Now that she's all cleaned up, we're going to dump out what oil we can. The only drain plug I see on this whole unit is right here. It's probably more of a fill plug. But we're going to take this out, and since it's hanging, we'll be able to tilt it once this is out. Alright, so we finally got this thing back up on the bench. It's cleanish. The pressure washer did not take some of the buildup off, but that's alright. It's a lot cleaner than it was. Next thing we're going to do is start taking off the pieces and parts like the pulley, the wheel hubs, and then also this shifter handle. And it turns out that the Red Zo2 video both were for 1/8" axle units. And we don't know about what's inside this one yet, but it's probably a 4-pinion. And we watched a Give Her the Beans video also. So once we get this thing opened up, we'll know a lot more about what we're dealing with. But for now, we're going to get started taking this thing apart. These hubs are being really stubborn. I gave it some heat with the torch, and you just saw us on the fast motion. I was hammering away on this thing with a rubber mallet, and it was making progress. It moved about 1/4 of an inch, but it's just not going. It just seems to be really stubborn and stuck. So we're gonna use the hydraulic press, and I'm gonna have to carry this thing over and set it in place. All right, y'all. I got the transmission set up in the hydraulic press. And let's see what happens now. It's coming right out. There it goes. Work smarter, not harder. All right, we're set up on the other side. As you can see, we got 2 4x6 pieces of lumber. I got some 1,000-pound tensile strength mule tape holding them together. That's a 9/16 impact socket. I'm going to go ahead and press it down through. Came tumbling down. All right, just like that, we got the hubs off. And let's get it back up on the bench. Take off some more stuff.
You mean?
Back up on the bench, we just took out the woodruff keys. Next thing we're gonna do is take off this set screw right here for the shifter. Pull the shifter straight up and out. I'm gonna put that back in so we don't lose it. And then next, I believe we're gonna take some sandpaper or something, some real fine stuff. We're gonna clean these axles good so they slide over the seals. And then looks like we're taking out the case bolts. We're gonna get this thing split. We're gonna remove the fill tube because it's flexible and I don't wanna break it. So I took an adjustable wrench. It's got this square flange fitting on the bottom. This is flexible, so I'm assuming this is some kind of a plastic, but this bottom piece has gotta be metal. So I just gave it a little twist. It was easy. And it looks like we're gonna be able to easily spin that out so it's not in the way, it doesn't get broken. All right, guys. We're gonna go ahead and use the wire wheel on this. I'm gonna spin this side and he's just gonna brush that side, get the paint off. All right, so the axles are nice and smooth. I think the next thing we gotta do is we do have to take that key out. So this side's the side that comes off, but I don't know if that stays or if that pulls through.
I would say take it off.
That might just stay in there. There might be a gear on the inside. All right, so we're gonna get this thing set up on some 6x4s up here and then take out these case bolts and get it split. All right, we got the transmission mounted in the vise and we're gonna take out the case bolts so we can split it in half. Take it away, Steffen. All the bolts are out. And now it's time to see if we can get this thing split open.
Dad, I have to see something.
What do you have to see, Crusher?
I actually see the gears.
You see gears in there?
No. This with the nut so they see it inside.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, now I can definitely see it. Yep, now I can definitely see it.
Is this thing trying to come out? I think it's just binding up on this. Or it's not wanting to go up the axle shaft. See there? It's because it's going.
It's beginning to go, yeah.
All right. We're gonna regroup, polish this up a little bit more. We'll be right back.
Dad.
Oh, where's that? Keep picking up on it. All right, so it turns out we were trying to take the case off from the wrong side. We're supposed to have the brake drum side facing up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just heat this up some because I know it's gonna be a bear to get off. We're gonna take this off. I don't know if we have to. We're going to. And then we're gonna hopefully take this side of the case off next.
This all the way. Oh, I feel.
Tensions are running high, guys. This thing is really annoying us. It's been 45 minutes trying to get it off. This is what it's come down to. Ready, Steffen?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, here we go. This is the brake drum side facing up.
Drop a pin.
What was that from?
Right here. I can see where it went.
We're jammed up on the axle again. It's that spot right where the bolt was on the... All right, we didn't get that on camera, but it came right off after I took a flap disc and smoothed out where the bolt on the hub made it all tore up on the surface there. You can see it. That's all that was holding it up. Now we have a mystery pin that fell out.
It goes right here with this gear.
That Steffen knows right where it goes. Which way does that gear face, up or down?
Like this.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, next we're gonna open up this differential carrier. It's got the regular lock nuts, they're not nylon. They're the kind that are pinched. Yes.
We can just push out.
All right, that's it. So here's where we're at. We've got this thing taken apart. We've got it blown apart. We're still on the fence about how we're gonna end up ultimately doing this. But for now, Steffen's gonna clean all these pieces and parts. He's gonna take the snap rings off, take the gears off. He's gonna clean this stuff 100%, and all these pinion gears too. He's gonna clean all this stuff so then we're not handling it with all this gear oil. He's gonna clean the case halves. He's gonna drain this out, get all the gunk out of it.
All right, guys, here we are in the laundry room. As you can see, we've got a big wash tub here. This is where we always clean our parts with the tractors. I've got these. First of all, what I'm going to be cleaning is these pinion gears and the bowl gear and the bolts that hold the carrier together. And then we'll move on to the axles. But for now, this is what we're going to be doing. So let's get to it. When you're scrubbing this stuff, you gotta make sure you get in between every gear, because that gear oil is really on there in every little part. If you don't get every bit of it off, you get crappy welds. Alright guys, we've got the pinion gears and the carrier bolts cleaned up. Now we're gonna go ahead and start with these axles. We're taking off these snap rings so we can get the axles out. axle pulls right out of it.
Alright guys, it's been a couple hours later. I was thinking over this. I wanted to do something a little bit more than just weld the gears, especially since this is only a 4-pinion differential. So here's what I came up with. I cut a piece of steel out of some of this 1/4 inch or whatever, how thick that is, mild steel bar stock that I have. And I cut some notches in the edges of it to fit down around the pinion teeth. I enlarged the hole so I could get the snap ring off. I drilled a few holes around the perimeter, and you can see I've already plug welded the center hole. You can see that. That's just preliminary. My plan is to do this to this side, then I'm gonna put the other side of the carrier, the other axle on the other side of the carrier on this, so it fits over these pinion gears. These aren't welded to this, they're not gonna be. So I'm gonna put that over there so it's aligned. I'm gonna flip the whole thing over, put it back in the vise, and I'm gonna make one of these for the other side. One of these square rectangle pieces with the notches for the teeth. These are gonna be plug welded, and then I'm gonna take the snap ring out, turn the whole thing over, take it out of the equation, turn the whole thing over, and I'm gonna fillet weld around the edge of the gear to the steel. I'll show you more in a minute. But this thing only has those 2 spot welds. It's only in between these pinion teeth, and it's already locked. And I'm gonna still weld these like you would in between these teeth here. So you're gonna have these gears engaged on that main gear and this rectangular piece of steel, which has bite on these gear teeth, and because of the shape of it, even if it was just sitting in there, it wants to turn, and it's just all locked up, all wedged up in here. I'm gonna try not to overheat the gear because I know there's different metallurgy there, but right now that's my plan, and I think it's gonna be a pretty good one. We'll see if it holds up. But I saw earlier RichieRichOverdrive's channel, and he had made something with his machines that fit down around the gear. Now that was also, I think that would be a larger carrier. It has the 1 1/8" axles, and it has 8 pinion gears around it. And you had that great big piece of steel in there going around, and you had the pins going through it. I don't have the machinery or the technology to do that, but I can do something like this. And I have high hopes for this. So I'm gonna make the other one, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, I got this thing turned over. Now I need to put my piece down in there just like that. All right, so I've got my next piece of steel that I'm gonna put in here. I enlarged the hole with a bigger hole saw, and I cleaned all the finish off of it so it's clean and weldable. And this is just by eyeball. I'm gonna put it try to center it over the snap ring. And it's cool if it's not perfect, because I can push the axle up. There's enough play in it to push up, and the snap ring gets just above the surface, and you can get it off anyway. But I made it big enough around it where it can still expand. And what I do, I just look down on it and mark where my teeth are, little triangles. I'm gonna try to make these shallower than I did on the other one. Gonna cut a little relief there. Little relief there. There's a big tooth protruding into it right there. Just like that. That's where my teeth are going to encroach into this material. And I'm just going to cut little triangles out with the bandsaw. Real quick and easy. Still red hot from when I was hitting it with the flap disc. All right. I think it was probably like this or something. I don't know how I had it. There we go. Just like that. And now this one's locked up too already. Now I know if I just left that piece in there without welding it or anything of that nature, it would definitely get tore up. But you can see how that works. So next, what do I do with my marker? I'm going to go around the perimeter. I'm going to drill my holes for my plug welds. And I get the plug welds right on the teeth so that the steel goes down and meshes with the teeth and melts in there with it. Nice and deep like. I got my holes drilled around the perimeter where I just marked them. And if you look down in the holes, you can see the gear teeth. So when I stick the welder in there, I'm going to lay heavy right in the center. Just let the filler material go in there hot on a nice hot setting. Like I have it on set to 3/16, which on my Hobart 250 amp welder is pretty hot. And I'm just going to fill that up till it's flush like I did on the other one. And that should be good to go. So before I weld anything, I'm going to make sure I can put this side back on because all this stuff has to mesh together. Just like that. That thing's locked up already. I mean, I guess you would be too if you had at least a ½ inch of steel wedged in between your gears. But yeah, that ain't going nowhere. So I know I can get that to mesh. I'm thinking I might not even weld these, the pinion gears. So that way that I can always get it to jiggle together, because I don't know if I weld those and they're stiff, if I'll be able to get this thing back together. But here's what I'm going to do next. Leave that right where it is. I'm going to ground it, hit it with the welder. You can see where the plug weld went through and snagged the gear teeth on both sides. So I got 4 more plug welds to do, and then I was gonna run a little bead right along the edge. Maybe not go all the way around crazy, but hit it here where all the force is gonna be. Maybe stitch weld it, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe like 6 little stitch welds, and call that good. Because I don't want to overheat that gear. I want to retain some of that strength that it has. And then I think I'm going to put this thing back together. Might have been this way. Yeah, it was like that. See how that is? Just wedged in there. All right, I just finished welding this thing to what I think was good enough. If you get in here and check it out, I laid a nice healthy bead focusing on the 3/16 or the 1/4 inch bar stock, and I worked it up and walked the puddle up into in between the gear teeth, about halfway up the gear. I can feel the heat through my glove right now, that close, it's burning my finger. But I did that on both sides. Come around this side over here. It's fused in there, and it's plug welded in those 6 places on top. I can get the snap ring off. I'm going to call that good enough. Now remember, this is wedged in between those 4 pinion gears. I don't know, guys. Will it break? Will it blow up? Will something Will something destruct? I don't know. But it definitely fused in with that gear. I'm gonna do the other one. I'm gonna put it back together right now first and make sure that it fits, that everything's still gonna mesh. Make sure I'm on the right track here, but that's it. I think that's gonna be locked. More in a minute. So it took a little bit of fiddling. I don't know what I did. Maybe after I welded it, something moved a little bit here and there. But I had to remove a little bit of material where the teeth meshed with those pieces of steel I put in there to get it to bolt back together and be tight on the bowl gear. But it's back together. And you can see and hear those 2 bars of steel that I have on there. Now there's a little bit of play in this one, but that's just coming from there's slop in the splines in the center of that gear in there. That's all that is. Otherwise, this thing's locked up. And I was gonna weld right here in between these pinion gears on both sides and but I don't think it's necessary. I don't see what benefit that's gonna give this thing. Because right now, the way I see it, it's essentially a square drive. You've got these 2 pins, these 2 pinion gears that are now essentially just pins. And you've got these 2 rectangles of steel going down through them. So it's like a square drive. They're jammed in there. They're meshed with the teeth. It can't move. I don't know what else I could really do. I don't think I want to weld that. Those 2, I don't see the benefit of it, of welding that. Because it don't move as it is. It can't. So, I'm going to take this thing, I got it bolted together right now because I was thinking about welding this. But I don't think it's necessary. And then, I don't want to mess up the alignment of these pins. So I'm going to pop this thing back apart, put the bowl gear back on it. I'm going to call this thing locked. We'll see how it performs. Alright, before I close it up for good, just come in here and get a look. This is what I did. Let me know if it's going to work. What you think. But you can see that fat weld I put on there. And I saw it through my welding mask. I saw that fuse. And I preheated everything too with the map torch. It's like that on both sides of the gear. That's a lot of contact on that gear. And don't forget, it's got 6 plug welds on the other side. So I think I'm gonna call that bonded, fused, whatever you wanna say. I'm gonna slide the bowl gear back on here. See those plug welds, that's how it looks there. Put her back together. Put my bolts back through the carrier. We're going to send it like this, like I keep saying. I don't see the need to do any more welding. And if we have to, or if something breaks, we'll find out. So we'll find out the hard way. But I think that's going to be a lot stronger than if we just welded those pinion gears. Alright guys, it's about 12:30 in the morning. We worked on this for a long time. We had a few problems putting it back together. One thing is, when Steffen took the lower half of this case with the gears inside to wash it out, it was full of crud. We sprayed it with degreaser. He went to wash it out. He took these gear sets, pulled them out, and pulled out the shifter shafts, and the ball and spring detent came out. And he thought he put it back together right, and he didn't. Lucky we checked it, but we got it figured out. We've got this thing back together. We got the RTV around it. Had to mix a little bit of blue and black, no big deal. We already test fit this before we RTV'd it to make sure it was going to go back on. Here we go. I got the case halves back together. The bolts are finger tight. In about an hour, we'll torque them down. It's the next day. It got late last night real quick, but the transmission got reassembled and the RTV should be good and cured. Now, we're gonna put this thing back together and go test out the locker. It's a lot of work though. There's parts everywhere. There's parts trays. Some people like to do a snap method. Others might clap. We're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna do the shotgun method. 3, 2, 1. Well, that sure was easy, but we all know what really happened when the cameras weren't rolling. Now, she's all ready to go, locked up. Let's take this thing for a ride. All right, guys, that's going to be a wrap for today's video. We got the wheel horse locked up tight. We'll see how long it lasts. Let me know in the comments what you all think about that locker setup. Once again, my name's Jason. This is Colt. This is Jace. This is Steffen. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. We'll see you on the next one.